I want to bring in CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio joining us live from Tel Aviv with more on the details of this deal. Before we get to that, Ramy, I want to just describe what you're seeing and hearing on the streets right now.
Right. Well, where we are, we're not hearing anything, just on the edge of Tel Aviv. But what we can tell you is that, and from who I'm talking to via text messaging, is that there is happiness, there is relief. I'm texting some families of hostage victims, and they're saying that they are, quote, very excited for it. Relief, though, but also complications, because in particular, one person I'm talking to is saying that their loved one, their younger brother, is not on this initial list of 33 hostages that is expected to come out over now the next 42 days or so. So this person says that they hate this deal, but at the same time that they're excited for the possibilities looking ahead. As you would expect, though, relief among people here in Israel hoping for this after the past 466 days of war. But this has also been coming after 15 months of emotional anxiety, of hope that has been rising and that has been dashed ever since talks, negotiations have been happening ever since this past summer. So you can imagine that a lot of people, even up until the moments before this deal was announced, there was cynicism. In the past few days, we've been talking to loved ones, brothers, friends, mothers of hostage victims, and they're saying that while they stay hopeful, they're also cynical that this deal would collapse at the last minute. They're also cynical about Hamas, saying that they're just toying with their hearts and with their hopes. But now, finally, as we have been reporting, this deal has been announced. And now, over the next few days, we hope to see those optics that hostages will be starting to come out of Gaza.
And this deal still needs to make its way through the Israeli government. But Ramy, I want to get back to some of the terms. 33 hostages are expected to be released because of this ceasefire deal in exchange for thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Of the hostages, we're hearing women, children, and older people. Are you getting a list of some of the people that are expected to be released? And is there any indication of whether these individuals are living or dead?
Right. That has been an open question, one of the sticking points, really, for Israel, demanding Hamas to know who is alive and who is dead on that list. And to your first question, there has been a list that Hamas resurfaced over the past few days of 33 people. We're told that that list has actually existed ever since last summer during negotiations. It has popped in and out, and then Hamas did refloat this again. Unsure, though, not made public, is who is or how many people are alive, how many people are dead. But according to Israeli intelligence, they believe that about a third of the people on that list are dead, and that could be as high as half of them. It's understood that possibly 2 of those people are also American citizens. Also unsure, though, the state of them, whether they are alive or dead. But all we know is that there are 33 people, and in terms of the mechanics of it, from what we understand, for every one living hostage that is released, it's understood that 30 Palestinian detainees would be released in exchange. But for every one female Israeli soldier, male Israeli soldiers would be released in phase 2. But for female Israeli soldiers, it's understood that 50 detainees may be released for them. So you can see that there's a difference in terms of the value of whether someone is considered a soldier or someone who is considered a civilian. But Israel holds many Palestinian detainees, an estimated 11,000 or so, but they are demanding that they extract as many people as they can for these hostages that hopefully will be coming out soon.
And Ramy, you mentioned in that special report that over the weekend, the violence in that area has really ramped up. Several people have been killed, including journalists. What more can you tell us about that?
Sure. In fact, over the past few weeks and in the ramp up in this past week, several hundred people, 600 to 700 people at least, have been killed since the start of the new year. That number has risen close to 47,000 now just over the past 2 weeks. And our CBS News crew in Gaza had been telling us when sunset fell over the course of the past few evenings that they heard reports of intense bombing up and down the Strip. The belief there is that Israel's military was trying to exert maximum pressure to either force the deal that we're now talking about, to really put maximum pressure, maximum fear on Hamas and other Hamas-led militants. But in addition, there's the idea that in order to potentially get rid of as much of Hamas's militants, infrastructure as possible before that ceasefire would actually take hold.
Yeah, we mentioned it's over 400 days in this war. Ramy, can you give us some perspective on just the impact this war has had on the people in Israel and Gaza, and just the weight of this decision today?
Right. I think you're looking at scenes here right now in Gaza, and I believe that for both sides, for Israelis as well as Palestinians, that this is massively psychologically and emotionally scarring. These can't be equated because it's a very different experience. Here in Israel, it is the emotional torment, it is the emotional torture of families, mothers, fathers, praying that their loved ones will come out of Gaza. But again, looking at the destruction here in Gaza on your screens right now, much of the Strip, especially the northern part of the Gaza Strip, has just been devastated. It has been obliterated in Israel's self-avowed quest to destroy Hamas. The open question really is that when Gazans are able to return home to the north, what will they find? And they might find nothing. They will likely find almost nothing. Ruins of where they lived, of their old neighborhoods, of the restaurants that they used to go to, of the beaches that they used to go to. And the question also is that we are in the height of winter here, Liz. There has been a dearth in food, in water, in medical supplies. We know that under the ceasefire deal, those will be surged, but it's almost unfathomable as to how much needs to be surged over what kind of time frame to address the scarcity, the lack. And according to some reports, according to the United Nations, many people facing imminent famine that desperately needs to be addressed.
Yeah, the rebuilding effort is going to be massive. And it's worth repeating what you just mentioned, that part of this agreement is that aid will be brought into Gaza. But Ramy, I just kind of want to go over the timeline of this. This deal has to make its way through the Israeli government. But it sounds like the hostages, at least the first phase of the hostage release, could begin as soon as this weekend.
Yes, that's right. From what we're seeing, it could start on Saturday, likely Sunday, because it still has to work its way through the Knesset here in Israel to be approved by the parliament. It looks very much like this will pass the Israeli parliament, but there has been some domestic anger in the government, as well as, this is not a homogenous homogenous happiness, rather, of the ceasefire. Many people here, thousands of people, even demonstrated against this ceasefire. But that deal is expected to pass through the Knesset, and at which point we should start to see at least a trickle of hostages start to come out. It's understood that the first batch of hostages could be perhaps 3 women, and then every week thereafter there could be 3 or 4 others who are released. So, for example, on day 1, on day 7, on day 14, through this phase 1, through 42 days, and on the last day, it's estimated that about 14 of the final Israeli hostages in this batch, in this group, would be then freed. Off of that, during that time, if things go well, Israel and Hamas, through negotiators, will be talking about the dynamics, the logistics of so-called Phase 2. During that phase, that would then focus on the release of the other hostages. And these are the younger male hostages as well as male soldiers who are being released. It's also going to focus on, as we talked about, the reconstruction of Gaza, which will take not months, years likely. In addition, the governance of Gaza, because Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Hamas cannot be reconstituted, cannot be trusted to come back to govern the Gaza Strip. With that said, some parties, international parties, want the Palestinian Authority to come back to power, but also Israel's Prime Minister says he does not want that to happen. So there again, it is an open question and a massive hurdle as to the future. After the hostages are released in Phase 1 and then in Phase 2, reconstruction and governance, this will take years.
Yes, no question. All right, Ramy Inocencio, live for us from Tel Aviv. Ramy, thank you so much for that.